Hey everyone,
Anyway,
welcome to the Hume podcast, Roles and Lols. For those of you who don't know Hume we're a recruitment training business based in Australia, and to date we have trained thousands of recruiters across Oz, New Zealand, and a bit of Europe.
this is going to be a 10-minute quick tips and tricks with hopefully some laughs along the way for agency recruiters.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoy, and if you ever have any topics you'd like us to cover in the poddy, please shout out. Otherwise, you'll see us every week on a Friday for 10-minute episodes. Hopefully you enjoy.
See ya.
This week we're laughing because the title of our episode is How to Do a Cold Call.
Bit clickbaity, but with good reason.
Yeah. And whilst we typically preach we never do cold calls, and that is 100% true, I think people's assumptions on what we mean by cold call are different. We still do calls to people that have never ever spoken to us in their entire life. We do a lot of those calls, but we don't classify them as cold calls. We classify them as warm calls because we've had some form of engagement that we can track and measure, and then we make the call at the right time. So we're still doing what I think most people still classify as cold calls, but there's been some level of warmth and engagement built up by way of marketing or branding, direct email messaging, like a whole variety of ways, but we are still doing the call. And I
And the
think
reason,
this,
yeah. And the reason why we call them warm calls again as well, not cold calls, is picking up the phone and not knowing the conversation that you're going into and not having a reference point or something tangible is horrible. Like I've done them for years, and calling up with your little scripts, introducing yourself, do you have any jobs? Like, you don't know anything about this person. The assumptions that come out of these cold calls are horrendous, and no wonder people get sick of like recruiters calling them and with no kind of point of reference. So to do a little bit of groundwork first, whether it's connecting, sending something, value adds, whatever it is, the call is just so much better to have something to talk about.
yeah.
Other than just a silly little pitch is very different call.
Yeah, and I think there's a level of prep that you do need to do if you want these calls to be successful, or the majority of them. I would cover off starting point prep. What sort of prep do you need to do? Know who you're talking to. I know that sounds basic, but know enough information about that person, their business, that you can reference on that call will help you keep the conversation alive. I.e., who's that person? Where have they worked previously? Are there any commonalities that you can mention on that call? What history do you have with that business? Do a baseline level of prep. Yes, you want some level of rough pitch, if there is one, but I would say you do need some level of pitch, and we'll talk about that in a second. You need to be prepared to handle objections because you are going to get them. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get objections if you're pitching on the call, and you need a solid close. Like, it can't just be a nice, airy, fairy conversation. There's got to be a reason for it, and you've got to close it because the prospect won't close it for you. So, what I would say is Lucy's now going to do a real life cold call. So, Lucy, here's
Oh
the
gosh.
phone number that you need to call. Imagine I did that. But, Lucy, here's a call that you need to make because you cold call.
No. No.
I
No.
would, like, as an example, too, so we've sent out our 2024 salary billings commission guide.
How
Haven't
sick are you of talking about the salary guide at this point as well, by the way? So
I know, I can't wait till it's done. But we can track sort of click-throughs, open rates, who's seeing it. There will be calls that we're making off the back of people downloading the guide. So there will be, at the moment, I think it's been downloaded 250 times in the last 24 hours. So there's data there that we can utilize to make calls. Now, they are technically going to be cold calls because a lot of these people have never interacted with our business or bought courses from us. But we have a hook, we've got a reason to pick up the phone and engage with prospects that have downloaded the guide. So the call for me, if I was calling, say Lucy had downloaded the guide and she worked at Strictly Recruitment. Never spoken to Lucy, Strictly have never bought from us, but she's downloaded the guide, right? So, okay, there's a bit of a hook. The prep that I would do is look on Lucy's profile, great. Where has she worked? Oh, she's worked at JV previously, great. I know someone at JV, so that's a little anchor point for the conversation, tick. Do I know anyone else at Strictly? Yes, I know Jane that works there. She's working in a different division. Great, I've got 2 talking points now. I've prepped my call. Then I would go in and start the call. There'd be a purpose for my call. In this scenario, it would be around, let's open the conversation around the guide, specifically around billings, because that was included in the guide, and get Lucy talking about what her team are doing. Because the minute she starts talking about the team, and if she talks about the fact that they're not doing as well as what the guide said, then there's a conversation around training, L&D, what are they doing, blah, blah, blah. So the conversation has got a bit of a rhythm and a purpose. The ultimate in my head goal is to get Lucy to agree to a meeting with me where we can talk a little bit more in depth about our L&D options. So in my head, there's a bit of a structure, there's a bit of prep that's gone in, and essentially that's how I would make the call. So the phone would ring, be like, oh, I didn't prep you on this list, but shall we do a call?
There we go.
All right. Gonna give Lucy Goose a call. She's downloaded a guide. We've got her number.
All right, let's go. Are you calling me?
Yes.
Okay. Right, go.
Are you not going to
Hello.
answer the call?
Hello, Lucy
Hey.
speaking. Who's this?
Hey, Lucy. It's Ez from Cumescope. How are you?
Good, mate. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm really good, Lucy. I'm really good. Look, Lucy, I just wanted to give you a quick call. We've actually not spoken previously, but I noticed that we were connected on LinkedIn.
Yes, I did see that come through the other day.
Yeah, how are you going,
Okay.
Lucy? How's your day been?
I'm flooded, mate. Let me tell you, rolls coming out my ears.
Oh God, the market is so interesting at the moment, Lucy. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but it's just been really inconsistent. And what we're finding, we actually work with quite a few of your competitors, DNB being one of them. But what we're finding with a lot of our clients is the inconsistencies of billings going up, billings going down, and clients being hesitant to actually finalize roles. Have you guys sort of come across that as well?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there and completely agree with, I guess, what the market's been doing at the moment. Billings, based on what we were doing a year ago, definitely down. Overall, probably a bit of a dip in the motivation through the team. But yeah, seeing that connection come through and that guide, yeah, very interesting and on par with what we've
Mm.
probably seen in our team. Yeah.
It's good to hear that there's a strong job flow, Luz. That's much better than what we're hearing for a few of your competitors, so you guys must be doing something well. Luke, did you manage to? I know we sent through the salary billings guide a couple of days ago. Not sure if you've had a look through it, but how was that in comparison to where your team sits across salaries, commissions, and sort of billings overall?
Yeah, I did have a look through it, and while I can see things do run true with what we've seen in our team at the moment, I would say probably just in the last month, we've seen things pick up a bit more, and we've really been honing in on our BD strategies and incentive programs. So we have seen things improve a lot over the last month, and whether that's what's happening internally or the market shifting or maybe both. But yeah, I would say things are picking up, which is good to
Mm,
see more roles coming in. And if touch wood, things go right, billings this quarter are
mm.
looking to be a bit stronger, which is good.
Oh, that's great to hear, Liz. I mean, I think because of the past year that we've had, we've noticed, and I think you mentioned this earlier in the call, was around that motivation that whilst job flow might be actually quite high at the moment because of the inconsistencies, that's shaken a lot of consultants, and the strategies around how to motivate consultants has changed over the last few months. And that's what we've sort of seen as a real focus area for agencies, and keeping that consistency across billings is down to how do you consistently keep people motivated in a market that's so fluctuating. But Luce, look, I won't keep you too long. I appreciate that you've spent a bit of time with me on the phone. I'd love to catch up with you at some stage over the next few weeks when you've got half an hour or so. As I mentioned, we work with a few of your competitors, Design and Build, we work with JB, we work with a few others. And what we've been working with them on is that consistency piece from a motivation perspective. We've got a few options in terms of how we provide support to agencies. There's a few options that you could potentially consider, whether that's now or in the future, but I'd love to just have a chat with you around that more broadly, as well around L&D and what the plans are for the next 12 months for you guys. Do you have 20 minutes or so in the next few weeks? I've got Friday 2 p.m. I've got free, and then Tuesday I've got a 1 p.m. Do either of those times work for you, and I can flick you a calendar invite?
Yeah, for sure. I think we've seen some of the content that's come out of Hume Scope, and certainly have looked through the salary guide and have heard good things. So look, this week's probably pretty packed, but late notice for me. But Tuesday 1 p.m. I've got a 2 p.m. so we'll have to keep it under an hour. But if that works for you, yes, send me over an invite, and be good to meet you in person.
Woohoo! That's how I don't
Sucker, just kidding.
But I think that's overall, and it's so hard to do, right? Like those type of calls, because they can go in every single direction. It's hard to do a stock standard call where you like this, what you say. You kind of just have to, and because we hadn't prepped that, I was like, you just have to go with what the other person says and try and adjust. Because people will say certain things, and it can just be one word. Like you mentioned at the start of the call, motivation, and I was like, okay, cool. Reference that for later, because the minute you say, hey, you mentioned this, therefore I'm saying this, that ties it in someone's head, and they're more likely then to engage and get in the ring with you on a conversation. So it's really important to pick up little things, what people are saying, because on the face of it, Lucy mentioned that they were having a stonker of a quarter, jobs coming out their ears, and you could take that for face value, or you could have a conversation and press that person and go, how is that from a motivation perspective? Because we have had an inconsistent year, how is that relaying into the team and their motivation? Because she sort of indicated that that was potentially an issue. So bringing that to the forefront in the call and just constantly pressing a little bit further by actually hearing what someone is saying, that for me is the biggest tip for making a call of any sort of business development focused nature.
Yeah, and I think what I notice in our calls that we do, and certainly in this example as well, is you had your anchor, which was the salary guide that you could just keep coming back to. You had a few points that you obviously came back to based on what I've said, but your structure was never, not once were you selling anything. You said you wanted to have a further conversation about something, but it was a conversation. It wasn't a sales call. And that for me is the difference, because there's no bullshit in what you're saying. You're having a genuine conversation of value to this person to find out more, versus going straight in to say, this is who I am, this is what HumeScope does. Do you do this? Yes, no. Okay, I'll call you next month. Yeah, it's a completely different call, and it's far more genuine. It's a lot lighter. It's more soft, and I think that is what people are drawn to, and people check out of a sales call.
Yeah, and I think just having the goal, right? The goal isn't to sell someone something on the phone, because it's unlikely they'll buy something off the back of one call. So the goal for us is always just push them into getting a meeting, because that's where we typically convert clients. It's get a meeting so you can actually discuss your offering, find out more about them. But on the call, if you're trying to push hard on the call, it's very unlikely someone will buy from you on the phone when they've never spoken to you. So having a purpose in mind, which is let's move the relationship a little bit further.
Love
it.
That was good. Seeing you do a little sales call, put you on the spot. Loved it.
I was actually thinking, and I said this to Johnny last week, I was like, I wonder if we should record like 10 BD calls each, 10 BD calls each, and then just have a 5-minute call, 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 and then just have a at the end of the call, tell the person that, hey, just FYI, we have been recording this. Would you mind us using this to share as examples to our networks? Because there's nothing better than sharing real life examples, because you don't know what's going to happen and how people respond and react and bring a prospect back to life off the back of a call. So stay tuned. We might be recording calls and sharing them.
Gosh, good training for us maybe too. But also good, I think, because seeing how you do a call, how I would and how Johnny does, very different as well. And not one is better than the other, but there's not a particular way you need to do it, because we all communicate differently, don't we? So it'd be quite interesting to listen back.
Stay tuned. Let's do it this week. Alrighty, Tim. Hope you enjoyed. Good luck with
Thanks for joining. Bye.